Well, it's good to be with you again. I think we have some really exciting things to show you on this round three of our various presentations. First of all, I'm going to talk about land use and urban design from the scale of the overall corridor. And here we have on this slide a diagram of the corridor that visually depicts some of these principles. But our main principles, as we thought about Main Street and Mascoutah, include the following. One is to be consistent with markets. So we want to be totally in sync with what the economics are telling us. So you won't see a proposal here for a major shopping center, for example. That's just not reality. But there are many exciting things that will and can happen along Main Street. Civic anchors. There are major landmarks along the street that we feel are so strong that they provide orientation and character to the street. And they're things that we should respect and play off of. There will be in our principles two key corridors, Main and Church, and they're a little bit different in terms of their function. An important one deals with parking. Parking's important in a business district, and there's a lot to be gained by using the land that we've got cooperatively to create more and better parking facilities. Number five, railway in Maine will be a key nucleus, really kind of the physical and geographic center of our study area, but is in many ways the focus of the plan. And then there are various types of development, commercial that will be a significant component, entrepreneurial businesses, startups, innovative businesses that we want to have opportunities for so that people with ideas can take root along Main Street and let those ideas grow. And finally, different kinds of residential development on available sites around the district. So let's get to these principles a little bit more deeply. First of all, the idea of civic anchors, that these are, in a way, landmarks or special places along the overall corridor between Mill and 6th. And we think there are four of these that really seem very interesting to us. Starting from the west is the Mascoutah Historical Museum, which is a wonderful resource, and the Pig Creek corridor, that creek that runs north and south through the city and crosses Main Street right next to the museum. The second anchor location that we'll talk about a little bit later is Railway Street, where the Postal Mill building is, and the previous mill was, where City Hall is. It's really the geographic center of the district and has some wonderful opportunities. A third is the Jefferson Street or Illinois Route 4 intersection with Main Street, which is really the way that most people from outside, or many people from outside, are going to approach Main Street. And finally, the wonderful Holy Childhood Catholic Church, that great landmark that you see in a distance that draws you inexorably into Mascoutah. We mentioned as a major principle two parallel corridors, Main Street and Church Street. And although we talk about this as being a Main Street project, it also involves the parallel streets, Church and State, as well. And these streets will have somewhat different functions. Along Main, our objective is somewhat limited because it's a state highway, so it will be vehicles first. But we want to create, through various devices, a smooth but calm traffic flow. So we want people not to speed through the downtown part of Mascoutah, but to take it easy and enjoy the ride. Most of these movements will be through movements. So ideally, there's not going to be a lot of turning traffic off the two-lane Main Street, other than at intersections. Some ideas in our planning provide opportunities for more generous sidewalks, which are pretty narrow right now. And these sidewalks can be used for a lot of different things. And finally, improve pedestrian crossings of Main Street to make it easier to get from one side to the other. Church Street will have a little bit different function. It will be primarily local. It's going to be providing the main access to parking facilities. It will be what we call a complete street. So it will accommodate cars, probably trucks, but also bicycles and pedestrians. And that will be done, as you will hear others on our team talking about, with a shared use path on the north side and a continuous sidewalk on the south side. Right now, we have a sidewalk on the north and pretty much nothing on the south. And finally, cross connections that connect Church Street and Main Street together. So that makes it more convenient to use parking lots along Church Street to get to Main Street businesses, and also to get from facilities like the library to Main Street and to connect those resources together. A big one is efficient cooperative parking. So there's a lot of parking in downtown Mascoutah, but it's really not attractive or used very efficiently. It's interesting because it's in a way every property for himself or herself. But on the other hand, people are very good about letting others use their own parking lot. So in a way, there's already a level of cooperation. By working together on a parking scheme, though, we can increase the amount of parking, create better looking lots, better pedestrian accommodations as well, and do some things that are really important, increasing parking where we need it the most, maybe giving us the chance to replace all or part of Main Street's parking, which allows a better pedestrian environment along our main corridor. Opening the possibility through shared funding of sharing the cost and maintenance of parking equitably throughout the district, of certainly improving Main Street's image and customer convenience, and also aesthetically providing landscaping and even the possibility of better stormwater management. So as you'll see, by working together, we can do some interesting things. And one of those interesting things is increasing the parking supply. So in our scheme, we actually add about 180 parking stalls to the current inventory of parking between the areas where it's really relevant, which are Bernard to 4th Street. And with that added parking that's more convenient, easier to get to, and easier to use, it creates a lot of other opportunities for us along the street. We're excited about Railway in Main. This should be and can be the major focus of community open space activity, a retail center, even a center for new kinds of uses like innovation businesses that we think provide an interesting reuse program for the Postal building. And then finally, we get into where different land use focuses might be. So certainly retail and commercial will continue to be focused along Main Street, but there are residential opportunities east of Independence and north of Church, and opportunities for more entrepreneurial workshop type businesses as well in both the Postal building and along State Street in the eastern part of the district. So lots of opportunities that are open to us, and in our other pieces, you'll see how these get developed in a little bit more detail.
So let's take a closer look at the residential opportunities that exist along Main Street, mainly east of Independence Street and north of Church Street, as just mentioned by Marty in the land use discussion. Looking at the for sale demand first, assuming that Mascoutah's growth trend continue, Main Street corridor has the potential to capture 15 to 20% of the citywide housing demand in the next 20 years. This translates to about 75 additional for sale units by the year 2040. Nearly 40% of these units will be in the price range of $200,000 to $300,000, which is great for the corridor, as products at these price points can include duplexes, townhomes that are well situated for downtown markets, as well as products that are apt for mid-density residential on infill sites, especially east of John Street and along Church Street. Looking at the rental demand, Main Street Corridor can be expected to add 35 units over the next 20 years. A considerable portion of this demand will be in the price ranges of $1,000 to $1,500 a month. This translates well for the corridor as products in this range can easily include newly constructed apartments with a mix of studios and duplexes along the main street, as well as live-work units along State Street towards the east of the corridor. Retail and commercial will continue to be focused along Main Street, as also identified in the land use plan. The corridor has the opportunity to fulfill some of the retail and commercial gaps in the regional market area by providing niche stores that also work well in the downtown environment. Stores identified on this slide can achieve exactly that. The retail gap analysis identified that corridor can support approximately 4 specialty food and liquor stores, 3 clothing and accessory stores, 1 furniture store, and 3 jewelry, luggage, or leather goods stores. Some percentage of the remaining retail and commercial gaps in the regional market area can be provided for by stores that work well in an auto-dependent retail environment. The uses identified on this slide will be best suited for Muscuta's Route 4 corridor. In addition to attracting sales revenue, these stores will also provide a distinct identity to Route 4 corridor, one that is complementary but not competitive to the Main Street corridor. The gap analysis identifies that this corridor could support approximately 2 pharmacies or drugstores, 2 gas stations, 1 automotive parts store, and 1 sporting goods store.
Implementing unique wayfinding signage along the corridor will help create an identity and direct visitors and residents to parking, key sites, and restaurants. Strategically placing these signs throughout the corridor will welcome visitors at the entrance and direct drivers and pedestrians to shopping, restaurants, and other attractions. We recommend adding both pedestrian and vehicular scale signage along the Main Street corridor to help make this happen. This map shows where we recommend vehicular scale signage be installed along the corridor, and what type of signage would be appropriate at these locations. We recommend adding Welcome to Main Street signs at corridor entry points, parking directional signs at intersections, public parking signs in public lots, and adding banners to lampposts along the corridor's length. On the next slide, we will go into detail about what these types of signs should look like. Vehicular scale signage along the Main Street corridor should clearly guide visitors to parking and amenities, while helping build an appropriate character. Parking signs like the one shown on the screen should be installed in public parking lots so that visitors have a clear indication on where they can park. Having parking directional signs installed at key intersections to direct visitors to those lots will make parking clear and simple. Adding banners to lampposts along the corridor will advertise businesses, events, while also building a character for the corridor. Adding entry signs at the ends of the corridor will help drivers know when they have arrived to downtown Main Street and can also inform them of what direction amenities are ahead. Once a visitor on Main Street is on foot, pedestrian-scaled signage is important to show them what amenities exist and where they are located. This includes maps and directional signage. Pedestrian-scale signage is signage designed to be used and viewed by pedestrians. It is meant to inform, direct, and guide a pedestrian to their destination. The map on the screen shows where pedestrian-scale signage would be beneficial on the Main Street corridor. We recommend adding pedestrian-scaled signage at key points on the corridor and adding a wayfinding map kiosk at the center of Main Street. On the next screen, we will show you examples of what this type of signage can look like. On the screen are examples of pedestrian-scale signage that would be appropriate on Main Street. We recommend that a kiosk map, like the one shown here, be placed in the center of Main Street at the Railway and Main Street intersection. Directional signs at major intersections, such as Railway and Jefferson, can easily direct pedestrians to their location. Temporary walking signs could also be used until funding becomes available for permanent ones.
We are recommending the crosswalks along Main Street to be updated to continental crosswalks. Comparing the existing standard crosswalks shown on the left to the continental style shown on the right, one can see how these would improve pedestrian crossing safety by increasing visibility and driver awareness. This style of pavement marking is recommended at all intersections along Main Street to enhance pedestrian safety through the corridor. Enhanced signage is also a good way to increase pedestrian safety. The picture on the left is a standard pedestrian crossing sign, which is recommended for mid-block or uncontrolled intersections, meaning traffic is not required to stop at a signal or stop sign, where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour or less. These are recommended on Main Street for mid-block crossings and at the intersection of Church Street and Route 4 if a future shared use path is built. The picture on the right shows a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. These are standard pedestrian crossing signs enhanced with a flashing light which is activated by a push button to indicate to drivers to yield to pedestrians using the crosswalk. These are recommended for roads that have a speed limit of 35 miles an hour. This would be recommended for a pedestrian crossing along Route 4 in the north part of town for when a future shared use path is built and would require one. Bump outs not only help with stormwater retention, but they are also helpful to pedestrians by shortening the crossing distance and minimizing the time they are in the roadway. They also help increase visibility and driver awareness of pedestrians about to cross the road. These bump outs are recommended on the corners at the intersections of side streets with Main and would further enhance the experience and safety for pedestrians in the corridor. As shown in the plan, enhanced pedestrian and bike facilities are recommended on Church Street. Here we show the typical sections with a 10-foot shared use path on the north side of the road and a 5-foot sidewalk on the south side of the road. The shared use path is recommended on the north side since there is more available space and there are less driveways and curb cuts on the north side, reducing the number of conflict points for bikes and pedestrians using the facility. In segments where there is street parking, there is little room for a green space buffer as shown in the image on the left. However, in areas where street parking cannot fit between driveways on Church, there will be a larger green space buffer between the roadway and the pedestrian facility as shown in the image on the right.
One challenge that we've heard is that stormwater drainage is an issue along Main Street. As an IDOT route, it may be a challenge to find ways to reduce stormwater runoff within the street. However, the City of Mascoutah has complete control over what happens on the side streets. Runoff from side streets contributes to the drainage issues on Main. So by reducing volume on side streets, you will help Main Street drain more efficiently. Corner curb extensions are a practical way to implement rain gardens on side streets. These rain gardens will fit into the area set aside for parking, either parallel or angled. If the rain garden needs to increase volume, then some parking spaces may be needed to be reduced. And rain gardens will be planted with ornamental wetland plant species and large canopy trees to provide color and green space to the Main Street corridor. Our plan recommends a further study by a civil engineer to determine the feasibility of rain gardens along Main Street. The proposed stormwater curb extensions along Main Street are intended to be multifunctional. These public spaces can also serve as an amenity for pedestrians along Main Street. Each stormwater curb extension is a public garden and the ideal place to rest while walking along Main Street. Seating can be easily implemented alongside these curb extensions, or in larger basins, the seating may be included as a parklet. Our previous community poll expressed favor for all four corners of every intersection to have curb extensions. Where stormwater improvements aren't needed, simple plantings or pavement can fill these spaces. Pavement may be ideal next to restaurants or other businesses that would benefit from the additional seating or storage area. Finally, these spaces can house some of the art or sculpture already located along the corridor, which may help draw visitors to walk Main Street as a new art walk or aid in wayfinding. Main Street is owned and managed by IDOT. IDOT will only allow street tree species to be planted that will grow no larger than 4 inches in trunk diameter at maturity. This includes understory tree species such as redbuds, dogwoods, and serviceberry. Unfortunately, this results in lower and smaller tree canopy, which provides little pedestrian shade and often conflicts with large vehicles such as delivery trucks and emergency vehicles. As a result, our recommendation is to plant small trees on the eastern and western segments of Main Street, which are proposed to have additional room for a tree lawn. This planting scheme will create a welcoming green corridor to bookend the historic commercial Main Street. Some residents may be interested in planting larger canopy trees in their yards or other frontages. This is an opportunity for public and private partnership between those property owners and the City of Muscoda, which would benefit both parties.